Good evening, guys, and welcome to Greed, the Gluttony of Materialism, Part 2. Living without greed means regaining our sensitivity for others. One of the first steps in coming into a proper relationship with money is to quit denying our wealth. For so long, we've struggled to accumulate more, to pay off what we have bought on credit, and to save up to buy other things that we've convinced ourselves that we are financially strapped. The more we have, the more we want, and thus we are caught in a never-ending struggle. We have fooled ourselves into believing that we are poor when actually we're the wealthy of the world. We must stop denying our wealth. We must face up to the tremendous hoard of resources that we have. While the U.S. has only about 2.5% of the world's population, we have disproportionate amount of the wealth in the world. If you live in a house, drive a car, and eat 3 meals a day, you're among the world's wealthy. Reasons that we fail to admit our wealth is that we then become responsible for feelings of guilt about being greedy and spreading our resources around with those who are less fortunate. 1 John 3:17 tells us, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? You see, living without greed means admitting our wealth and thereby gaining new sensitivity to the plight of those in need. In other words, are you as generous as you should be with your money, possessions, and time? As difficult as it might sound, many of us could live on half of what our current income without serious sacrifice. Yet we feel we are always barely making ends meet. The paradox of this situation is that we continue to feel this way even when our income increases. Whether you're earning $15,000, $50,000, or $150,000, we tend to live at the maximum limit of our income. And so the statement is proven true over and over. Enough is just a little bit more. In Luke 12:15, Jesus said, "Watch out, be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." You see, Jesus is saying in this verse that the good life has nothing to do with being wealthy. James 4:2-3 tells us, greed is a source of conflicts, even wars, as people strive for things they don't really need. Starting in verse 2, you desire but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives, what you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Henry David Thoreau was a novelist, said from this quote, simplify, simplify, simplify. Our lives are frittered away by detail. Thoreau, at the age of 28, he conducted an experiment to how simply he could live by going to live alone more than 2 years at Walden Pond without any of the conveniences of city life. He stated, I wish to live deliberately, to confront only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it teach and not, and when I come to die, discover that I had not lived. It's not surprising that the first chapter of his book, Walden, is entitled Economy. In fact, it occupies more than a quarter of the entire book. Thoreau had learned the art of living with less. So, again, living without greed means learning to live on less. The Christian response to greed lies in learning to live on less. Rather than spending to the edge of every paycheck, we can refuse to live on maximum and learn the art of simplicity. When we discover the difference between luxuries and necessities, when we learn to live without desire being fulfilled, when we avoid buying things that we rarely use, then we'll know the freedom of simplicity. Simplicity not only frees us from greed and materialism, it also gives us resources to be used for what really matters. We must loosen our grip on material things. A simple life makes tithing God's money and enables us to share with the physically and spiritually needy. As Christians, we must determine to rule money rather than allow money to rule us. Only then we can regain our sense of eternal values, gain a new sensibility to the poor, and learn how to live less. So to close, what does a life of simplicity look like to you? And did Christ live a life of simplicity? Guys, look over this and we'll see you for the Zoom meeting. Have a great night. For more information on Aztec Church of the Nazarene, please visit our Facebook page and email us. God bless.